Part 43. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 421. Chapter 421. She still refuses to give in. What if the industry association puts pressure on Huanya? Su-yoon asked in return. This. Arian was stunned. No way. Would a company as big as Huanya still be afraid of a mere fragrance industry association? Su-yoon smiled and glanced at her. Do you think that the Perfumery Industry Association is just a non-governmental organization, that simple? Not to mention how many well-known domestic perfumers are in the industry association. If they all unite to put pressure, it will have a big impact on perfume production. Even the directors and presidents of the association, you think they are just perfumers? Is it that simple to be a perfumer? In fact, there are many people who are famous and prestigious in the political circles. Because of this, they are half controlled by the above, so they have such authority. They can formulate various industry regulations, can point fingers, and even, because they were rejected in order to save face. I can't stand it anymore, so I block someone. This is also the reason why she doesn't like the association. It has gradually lost its original meaning, which is not what she wants. Since this is the case, you can still laugh. Why don't you think of a solution quickly? Arian didn't expect the matter to be so serious. She originally thought that with Xiao here, everything could be settled, and there would be no big problem at all. But now that she said it, even Huanya might not be able to handle it, and Xiao might not be able to compete with it. So how could she lie down under the flower gallery and drink tea so easily? What's the hurry? She said disapprovingly. They want to block it, but I can still stop them. Let them go and yell and kill. As perfumers, what we should do best is not to make better products. Are there any better perfumes to come out of this? For her, as a perfumer, the most important thing she should do is to make perfume. Apart from that, there is nothing more important than this. But Arian wanted to say something else, but she suddenly stood up. Hey, I have it. I didn't know what she was talking about, but I saw people coming to the base of the wall. The few logs that were planted before still look bare, but when you get closer, you will find that there are a few small green buds on them. Although there are only a few, they are very green in color and small. Very cute. Su-yoon knelt down and got closer. First she sniffed it, and then she lifted it up very carefully with her fingers, twirling the leaves with her fingers. Too tender. The skin will break with a slight touch, revealing some juice. She put the juice on her fingertips and rubbed it, then brought it close to her nose and smelled it, with an expression of joy on her face. Arian also came over. What is this? She saw her planting it a few days ago, and it looked like a few ordinary wooden piles. If it hadn't sprouted now, she would have believed it to be dead. She had seen many raw materials for spices, and it was not that she had never seen original fragrant wood, but she really didn't think there was anything special about this wood. It just had the woody smell itself, and it was not an ordinary spice, but Su-yoon was treated very carefully, as if it is some kind of treasure. Good stuff, Su-yoon smiled, feeling very happy, not affected by the blocked post at all. After experiencing so many things, she took these things lightly. What's more, she was prepared for what Hee-jin would do, so she wouldn't be too surprised and shocked. Go get my plate, she turned around and said. Arian quickly went into the house to get the tools and brought them over to watch her very carefully cut off some buds and put them on the tray. With so few pieces of wood, she didn't cut much in total, but when she picked up the tray, she smelled a very peculiar aroma arrived. This smell is very special. I couldn't help but bring the tray closer and smell it again. Is it a good thing? Su-yoon was a little proud. Be careful not to damage my baby. Also, we will start working soon. She has been waiting for these little things for these days. If her idea is right, a new and special perfume should be released. The office of the Fragrance Industry Association in Zhongcheng is a large courtyard. He-jin looked at the popularity of the post, and then looked at the blocking order issued in the name of the association. This blocking order has not been issued yet, and he is still waiting for Surim's response. So far, there has been no response, not even the slightest movement. Soo-yun's neck is quite tough, and she didn't even give him a call to soften him up. From his private thoughts, he didn't want the matter to come to the last stage. He just needed her to have an attitude, a conciliatory attitude. It is true that one has talent. Genius is open to debate. However, regardless of whether one is a genius or not, he should be controlled by industry associations in China. Those who are not controlled at all are an unstable factor and should be eliminated. However, until now, she still refuses to give in. Does she really think that Sci-fi can protect her? He was thinking deeply when someone came in from the outside and said, "Young master, there is a woman outside who wants to see you." Soo-yun, he raised his head and asked, because basically everyone here knew Soo-yun and knew what he was like. The man shook his head. "No," she said, her surname was Yun. He originally wanted to say goodbye, but then he thought about it and glanced at the computer beside him. The hot search list was still hanging there. He curled his lips and said, "Let her in. I didn't expect that she would find this place." Yoon Chug-seo wore a lotus-colored skirt today, which was a bit fluffy and made her look several years younger. She looked youthful and pleasant. He even put on light makeup, which was different from his usual image in the company. He curled his hair, and it looked like he had been carefully groomed. She saw He-jin as soon as she entered the door. Frankly speaking, although this man was a little worse than Sci-fi in terms of appearance, he still shone like a light in the whole room. What's more, the He family behind him is comparable to the Si family. If she can be with him, she will have the confidence to crush Huanya under her feet in the future. Thinking about it, his smile became even brighter. "We meet again." He-jin glanced at her, his attitude was lukewarm. "I didn't expect that. My family is already in a hurry. Miss Yoon still has the time to come to my place for tea." Following his line of sight, Yoon Chug-seo saw a hot search list on his computer screen. Of course she knew that the recent hot searches were almost all about the Yoon family, and she also knew what he was referring to, and she didn't take it seriously. He smiled and said, "I'm not here to drink tea. I'm here to give Mr. He a gift." Oh, he looked at her empty hands, which only contained a small shoulder bag. "What gift?" "A gift that can deal with our common enemy, a great gift." She sat down at the table opposite He-jin, one leg gently rubbing against his. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 422. Chapter 422, The Greatest Freedom After Marriage. He-jin quietly moved to the side to avoid her legs, and then he said, "To be honest, Miss Yoon, it's really hard to surprise me with your gift." "Why don't you read it first before talking?" Yoon Chug-seo smiled and took out her mobile phone, fiddled with it casually, and then put it in front of He-jin. He glanced at it and found that it was a drafted accusation. The accusation was that Soo-yoon was actually the mastermind behind the Yun's perfume incident, and that she had colluded with Yoon Chuk-yeon of the Yuns. "Do you think such a thing is enough to convict you or to slander you?" He-jin raised his eyebrows, obviously disapproving. "Of course it's not just this. She, Soo-yoon, has a bad record in this matter. Although Huanya helped her settle that matter, as long as the old matter is brought up again and the contraband is included this time, it's not surprising that she did it. Besides, your Perfume Industry Association is also launching a boycott, saying that she shouldn't be a perfumer, and she doesn't even have a professional qualification certificate. Yoon Chug-seo has mastered all of these, so it is not difficult to work together to attack Soo-yoon." He-jin didn't say anything, he just raised his eyes and looked at the woman in front of him. To be fair, She is very beautiful, with moist eyes. When she looks at you, you will feel that she is quite innocent. Her delicate red lips look like ripe cherries. She has the unique charm of a mature woman, and because of her having been in the business world for a long time, she has the aura of a strong woman. Only. Hands crossed in front of him, Jin said lightly, "Do you seem to have a deep hatred for Soo-yoon?" "That's not true." Yoon Chug-seo straightened up and said with a smile, "I don't have much interaction with her, but Mr. He seems to be very interested in her." She could tell this without him having to answer. Jin is actually quite interested in this Soo-yoon. This time it is an investigation, but he is showing mercy at all times. Otherwise, with the ability of the industry association, if he really suppresses it, Soo-yoon would have been finished long ago, and she would still be like this, jumping around. The more this happened, the more Yoon Chug-seo felt inexplicably resentful towards her. Why should the man she fell in love with, the one she chose, look at her differently? Why should she? If you don't have any deep grudge against her, why would you frame others like this? He said thoughtfully, tapping his fingers gently. Jin did not answer her question. Jin did not feel that he needed to answer her, but this little woman's thoughts were indeed a bit deep. Framed, Yoon Chug-seo laughed, slid down from his desk, and stood in front of him. "Mr. He, in front of you, I am not worthy of these two words. What you are doing to Soo-yoon now, how are you better than me? We all have different purposes, but we have a common enemy. You and I are actually the most suitable partners." As he spoke, he leaned close to him. These last few words were almost spoken in his ear. Jin didn't move. He felt the woman's warm breath spraying against his ears. He smiled and stretched out his hand to pull her. Yoon Chug-seo staggered and fell into his arms. She leaned against him with her soft body, and didn't stand up in a hurry. She gently pressed a hand on his chest, raised her head, and her eyes were as charming as silk. Pulling her over, Jin pinched her chin with one hand, forcing her to look up at him. "Tell me, if I cooperate with you in doing this, what good will it do to me?" "Soo-yoon will surrender to you." The force on her chin was a bit strong, and she still felt a little pain, but she didn't show any discomfort on her face. Instead, she said with a smile, "Isn't this what you want? If you didn't want her to surrender, you could have applied pressure long ago. Why wait until now?" But obviously, Soo-yoon has a stubborn temper, and even if she was jointly boycotted and blocked, she did not react at all. She is just relying on Hwanya and the Si family to support her now. If Mr. He can cooperate with me this time and put double pressure on her, Soo-yoon will not only be unable to protect her, but even Si Yao will be dragged into the water. When the time comes, it will be better for Hwanya to take a share of the beauty market by itself. If your He family joins forces with our Yoon family, who else will be our opponent in the whole country of China?" She said coquettishly, and Jin pinched her chin and laughed out loud. "It's a good idea, but why should I cooperate with you? What's the benefit to me?" "Because you and I are both understanding people, and it is most comfortable for an understanding person to cooperate with an understanding person." She spread her arms around his neck, and Yoon Chug-seo moved closer to him. "I know, you are very I admire Soo-yoon and think she is a talent, but I know her better than you do. She has been able to turn the corner out of so many difficulties. Apart from her own luck, isn't it because Si Yao is behind her? Also, you also know that she is from the Chu family. No matter how skilled she is always more difficult to deal with than ordinary women, and she cannot be forced. For someone like her, you can only completely remove the pillar behind her. Only by breaking her pride can you convince her. Isn't this what you want?" She said calmly, while looking at Jin's face. For such a man, he has had a smooth life since he was a child and has never lacked anything. He can be said to have everything going smoothly. He must have a strong desire to conquer. For Soo-yoon, he should have more of a strong desire to conquer. Give him what he wants. This is the prerequisite for negotiating cooperation. I heard you right, you want to marry me. But can you tolerate your husband having other women in his heart? Hee-jin asked her with a smile. His eyes were dark and unclear, and there seemed to be an endless sea of darkness hidden under his eyes. No one could clearly see what kind of dangers and what kind of waves were hidden inside. Yoon Chug-seo smiled nonchalantly. Mister, he is looking down on me. We were born like this, and we haven't seen any storms since we were young. For a family like ours, men really only want to keep. Do you want a woman? If we get married, I won't stop you from whoever you like or conquer. It's normal for a successful man to have 2 or 3 close friends, but your wife will only be me. Except for me, you can't find anyone with my status and family background, and enough beauty and intelligence to match you. In our marriage, who is the most powerful combined weapon, and I will give you the greatest freedom after marriage. She was full of confidence and felt that the conditions offered to Hee-jin were absolutely tempting. In fact, Hee-jin also fell silent, seeming to be seriously thinking about her proposal. Looking at his face, Yoon Chug-seo tightened her arms, stood up, and took the initiative to kiss his lips. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 423. Chapter 423. Something big happened. In the studio, after working hard for several days, the result finally came. Holding a small bottle of amber original essential oil, Soo-yoon seemed to be holding a priceless treasure. Arian was also very excited, shouting that it smelled too good, and the whole studio was filled with excitement. It's this unique scent. This is a fragrance that she has never discovered before. To be precise, it is like the fragrance of several flowers blended together. You can taste it carefully and it has the original fragrance of herbal plants. It is elegant and refreshing. Although only such a small bottle of essential oil was extracted, this raw material should be enough to create the theme of the series, and it is also very consistent with her vision. Arian, put it in a cool place and wake it up. Let's continue with the next step, she ordered, took off her gloves and washed her hands, then looked at the experimental data to make sure there were no problems. He sat in front of the computer and sent an email, then called Lisa. What you want should be available in less than half a month, in time for your event. Great. Sue. I knew you could make it, Lisa said happily, then paused and said, by the way, I heard that you seem to be in a little trouble recently. Do you want my help? No need, you said it's just a little trouble. Why do you need help? She said with a smile. What's more, Lisa is really not of much help here. Okay then, Lisa didn't force it and said after thinking, by the way, Mr. Lin is coming over in the next few days. Do you have time to meet? He said he wants to treat you to a meal. Mr. Lin, Soo-yoon was stunned for a moment before calling out the wealthy Chinese businessman in France. You don't have to be so polite. I don't have much interaction with him. We are all friends. Besides, Iris has always been thinking about you and will talk about you from time to time. Thinking of the little boy she had saved, she smiled and said, let's talk about it then. Well, I'll leave it to you anyway for this themed perfume. Oh my god, I really want to go over and have a look right now. I feel like I can smell the fragrance through the phone, you know. Hearing her exaggerated tone, Soo-yoon laughed out loud. Okay, you can come over and take a look when the finished product is finished. You can't do it now. It's just that the original essential oil is extracted first. There will be a total of 4 models, all based on this, and then different ingredients are added to blend. The final product should have a unified overall tone, but each is different. This just her thoughts and ideas. Okay, then I'll. At this time, the doorbell rang. Arian walked over and took a look at the access control screen. She was stunned when she saw a few police-looking people standing outside. "Sister Yoon," she said softly. Soo-yoon heard that her voice was not right, so she said to Lisa, "I have something else to do, so I won't talk to you for now. I'll talk to you next time." After finishing speaking, he hung up the phone and came over to ask, "What's wrong?" Pointing to the picture on the small screen, she glanced at it and frowned slightly. Has the industry association finally taken action? But that doesn't matter. Anyway, this matter has not yet risen to the legal level. At most, it is just a few questions and civil mediation, and that's it. "It's okay, open the door," she ordered, turning around to pack up the things on the test bench. However, after a while, there were bustling sounds outside, and then Arian and the policeman walked in. The atmosphere felt not right. "Who is Soo-yoon?" someone asked loudly. Soo-yoon turned her head and said, "I am. Now we suspect that you are related to a commercial crime, please come with us," the policeman who asked the question before said with a serious face. Commercial crime, Soo-yoon frowned, but she didn't understand. "Why, is the Fragrance Industry Association suing me in the name of commercial crime? If so, that would be really funny." The policeman shook his head, "It's not the Perfume Industry Association. Now it's Yun's side who is suing you for conspiring with Yun's manager Yoon Chuk-yeon to add contraband ingredients to Yun's perfume for personal gain. You need to cooperate with our investigation." In fact, the police were quite polite to her. For ordinary people, they might not tell you the reason and just take her back to you. However, Soo-yoon was also very surprised. "Who? What do you mean?" She doesn't even remember the name, Manager Yoon? Who is it? "Come back with us first, please cooperate with the investigation." The other party showed his ID and did not intend to say more. "Okay, I'll go with you." She also wanted to find out what was going on. Woo Arian quickly stopped, "Wait a minute. We don't know what you are talking about at all, let alone collude with him. This is their slander, how can you arrest people randomly? This is not your decision. It will be discussed after investigation. If you do this again, you are obstructing official duties," the police said to Arian. But Arian was unconvinced and wanted to defend herself, but Soo-yoon stopped her and said, "It's okay. I just went to understand the situation with them. I also want to know how the Yoon family put such a cap on me big hat. It's funny to think about it. She conspired with the Yoon family. To be honest, apart from the two encounters between Yoon Chuk-seo and Yao Ying and Luo Yuen-hang, two fringe Yoon family figures, she didn't recognize the others at all, so what was the point of collusion? If she really wanted to frame them these days, frame up, don't you even need any evidence?" "It's okay," he shook his head to reassure her, turned around and walked away with the police. Watching the police car leave, Arian was confused. After thinking about it, she turned around and called Su Feng, Feng, something big happened. Sister Yoon was taken away by the police." "Yoonchi." Yoon Jongcheng rushed into Yoon Chuk-seo's office again and slapped her desk hard with both hands, causing several pages on the desk to fly. He was so angry that he didn't even bother to close the door. He stared at her and said, "Is this what you said? You have to want your brother to die, don't you?" Originally, he thought that it would be the best outcome to blame this matter on his opponent, let Soo-yoon and Huan-ya jump together, and finally take the blame for them, but he never expected that he actually got involved with his precious son. The police sent someone to send a message to arrest Yoon Chuk-yeon. Only then did he know that the person Yoon had reported was not only Soo-yoon, but also Yoon Chuk-yeon. He was confused at the time, never expecting that he would still be dragged into the water, and that in the end he would not be able to save him. Since the case was brought by Yoon Chuk-seo in the name of the company, she should be the one to deal with it. There have been too many things happening recently, and he feels like he doesn't have enough brain power to figure it out. He just knows that if Xiao Qian is dragged into the water like this, it will be completely over. End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 424. Chapter 424 Showdown Now. Compared with his impatience, Yun Chugzio was much calmer. She sat safely behind her desk. The desk was full of piles of various documents. There were too many things happening in the company recently, and in addition to the crisis, except for the several vice presidents above, she is the oldest. However, most of the vice presidents are nominal shareholders of the company, participating in dividends, but not involved in daily management. In the past, Yun Boqian was in charge, and occasionally Yun Chuao was in charge. Now, no one can ask questions, she is the eldest. Looking at her sitting there, her makeup was more refined and her aura seemed completely different. Yun Zhongcheng vaguely felt that there was something different about his daughter, but he couldn't tell exactly what was different. It was a feeling, an indescribable feeling, and this feeling made him uneasy. Shuer, you must give me an explanation, what is going on? Why does it still have to be related to Xiao Qian? He asked angrily. Yun Chugzhu raised her eyelids and glanced at him without saying anything. She lowered her head and continued to review the document. She signed her name, closed the document and put it on the other side. Then she said calmly, Dad, what are you doing now, are you questioning me? Yun Zhongcheng was stunned for a moment. Her tone made Yun Zhongcheng uncomfortable. Actually, isn't it clear who is responsible for this whole thing? I proposed and established this new project department at the beginning. I also hired professional people to do it, but, you insist on giving the project to Yun Chuqian. He must do this project, but he refuses to listen to other people's suggestions. He takes all the credit. In order to take all the credit, he refuses to listen to anyone's opinions. Now, things have changed. It's getting out of hand, so are you questioning me now? She leisurely recited Yun Chuqian's crimes, completely losing her previous soothing and coaxing state, and even her brows became a bit more stern. Shuer, you. What's wrong with me? Am I not telling the truth? Who in this company doesn't know that Yun Chuqian is an idiot? He doesn't know anything, but here he is gesticulating. He doesn't understand anything and just wants to take over the power of the company. Is it true that you are at your peak when you are born, just because he is your son, so even if the Yun family will be destroyed in his hands in the future, will you give it to him at all costs? Her voice suddenly increased, and she stood up with an imposing manner. Yun Zhongcheng was startled and took a step back subconsciously. Shuer, what are you doing? This is the office. Ha, you also know that this is an office. With a chuckle, Yun Chugzio walked around the table and walked towards him. Dad, now you tell me that this is an office. You rush into my office again and again just to give me your son was looking for a scapegoat, and even wanted me to take the blame for him. He, Yun Chuqian, rushed into my office again and again. How could he take the company's rules and regulations seriously and now tell me that this is an office? Since you said that, let's do it according to the office and the company's rules and procedures. Vice President Yun, I still have work to do, please come back. Looking at her cold and heartless look, Yun Zhongcheng was stunned. He stood there stunned for a long time, his hands hanging by his sides were shaking slightly, and his whole body was cold. This feeling of being betrayed was really not a good feeling. The most important thing was that she was still his biological daughter. A few days ago, she was still promising him that she would find a way to save Xiao Qian, but today, her face suddenly changed. She changed her face too fast, faster than turning the page of a book. Shuer, so what you told me before was all a lie, he asked in a trembling voice. You planned to help Xiao Qian from the beginning, but you just watched him sink step by step. No, is it the hole you dug? With a mocking smile, Yoon Chug-seo said, it depends on how you look at this kind of thing. I dug a hole, but I planned to lay the foundation and build a tall building, but Yoon Chuk-yeon insisted on grabbing it. He snatched it. If you don't build a tall building, you have to keep digging down. If you dig a deep hole and jump into it, what can I do? So you can't blame her. It was Yoon Chuk-yeon who wanted to jump into the trap, she just didn't stop him. Okay, after hearing the truth, Yoon Jong-cheng was completely defeated. He supported the side of the sofa with one hand and slowly sat down on the sofa. I really didn't see it. My dear daughter, she has such a good trick, she even deceived me. Dad, there are so many things you haven't seen, she smiled coldly. I have done so many things for the company over the years, and you can't see any of my talents or abilities. All you see is that idiot son. Just because he is a man, he can get what I have worked hard for half my life without any effort. Why do you still want me to help and support him? Is he worthy? Now you see clearly, with his pig brain, he can do such a thing. What ability does he have to take over the Yoon family? So, this is why you dug a hole for him? Did you already start planning when I brought him into the Yoon family? It was not until today that Yoon Jong-chen truly understood after hearing her heartfelt words. After a pause, he asked tiredly, is your mother also involved in this matter? Participation doesn't count, knowledge must be there. She no longer hid it from him, and opened the skylight to speak directly. Dad, you are not naive enough to think that two women can really coexist peacefully, right? My mother, she has worked hard for the Yoon family for half her life. Why should she accept a from outside into her family, and why should she be open-minded and accept your son with another woman? But I haven't treated you mother and daughter badly all these years. You have food and use. Before he could finish speaking, Yoon Chug-seo interrupted him, that's what you should do. Dad, think about it. If we change places and my mother wants to bring in her son who was born to another man, would you be able to accept it? Can you be open-minded and willing to let him join this family and even inherit the Yoon family's property? She is not qualified, Yoon Jong-cheng said angrily. Even if I just imagine it, I feel very angry. Smiling disapprovingly, Yoon Chug-seo nodded at him without any trace, but Yoon Jong-cheng couldn't hear it at this moment. So, people's hearts are more powerful than people's hearts. Dad, let me advise you. This matter has already been finalized. Just give up. She sat down again, picked up the teacup at hand and drank tea slowly. The reason why we chose to have a showdown now is because everything is almost settled and there will be no more flips. That little can never hope to step into the Yoon family's door again. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 425. Chapter 425, We Must Find Someone. After a moment of silence, Yoon Jong-cheng suddenly raised his head and laughed, okay. My good daughter, Dad really misjudged you. Looking at his appearance, Yoon Chug-seo gave him a cold look. She didn't have much reaction or even much emotion. If she hadn't done this, she would probably be sitting here in disgrace today, completely defeated. After laughing for a while, his cell phone rang suddenly. Yoon Jong-cheng didn't think much of it. After a while, he slowly picked up, hey, it's me. After listening to a few words, he suddenly raised his head and said, what? Are you sure you have searched for her? Have you called her too? He asked urgently, standing up involuntarily and looking in the direction of Yoon Chug-seo. Yoon Chug-seo looked at him, confused. Okay, I understand, don't be impatient, hold on steady first. No, don't call the police, just wait. After speaking, he hung up the phone and stared at Yoon Chug-seo while holding the phone. What did you do to Xiao Qian? Yoon Chug-seo. At this time, Do you still need to act in front of me? Yoon Jongcheng snorted coldly. Now he didn't believe her. Now that you have put all the blame on him, why don't you need to put him under house arrest? Where did you put him? House arrest, Yoon Chugzyo laughed. Dad, you also said it? Now that he is taking the blame, the police will find him soon. Why should I put him under house arrest? Where can I put him under house arrest? Besides, house arrest, what good is he to me? She looked calm and didn't look like she was lying at all. Yoon Jongcheng stared at her for a while before frowning. It's really not you. That phone call just now was from Chenguo, Yoon Chugzyo asked after thinking about it. Now we will also pay attention to whether there is anyone missing in Yoon Chukian. Who else is missing besides his biological mother? I haven't been able to contact you for 2 days. He dialed Yoon Chukian's number again without giving up. His phone was still turned off and there was no movement at all. Your aunt was going crazy with anxiety. I thought he might be in a bad mood, but she kept saying it's definitely wrong to not be able to contact him. At this moment, there are eyes everywhere staring at him. It's impossible for him to run around without being noticed. So, my first reaction was that he was placed under house arrest by Yoon Chugzyo, so he couldn't be found. Yes, there are eyes staring at him everywhere now. If he really ran away, there will definitely be clues. Nodding, she said, so, could he just find a place to hide? No, shaking his head decisively, Yoon Jongcheng said, you have no idea how helpless Yao Qian is right now. Now he can only wait for my news and wait for me to help him settle this matter, but... Unexpectedly, not only was he unable to deal with the situation, but the whole thing was even worse. He became extremely depressed in an instant. Yes, he is helpless. He can only wait for you, rely on you, and even want to rely on me. But Dad, I can only rely on myself. Do you know how difficult it was for me to get to where I am today step by step? You can't even see the effort. But her words had no impact on Yoon Jongcheng. He sighed and said, what's the point of saying this now? Shwe'er, you really didn't capture Xiao Qian. Why should I catch him? Yoon Chugzyo snorted and said, don't be too anxious. I believe he will appear soon. Really? His eyes lit up. He was used to it. He was used to relying on this daughter and trusting her for so many years. About the perfume, the police will come to your door soon. If he disappears, the police will naturally look for him, so you don't have to worry. It doesn't make any difference whether you report him to the police or not. It doesn't make any difference whether you find him or not. Just wait. She calmly pulled out a document and looked at it leisurely. Having said that, how could Yoon Jongcheng not be worried? That's it, that's all. If you don't want to go look for it, I'll look for it myself. He turned and left the office, but he looked much more haggard than before. When he was going out, Luo Yuanhang happened to come in and almost bumped into him. He turned around and glanced. What's wrong with him? Nothing, Yoon Chugzyo said calmly. Where have you been in the past 2 days? It seems that I haven't seen you in 2 days. Conscience of heaven and earth, I am trying my best to help Mr. Yoon, he chuckled, showing no sign of nervousness at all. There have been so many things recently, and I have to work on appraisal reports and appease the media. I still have to go find the perfumer. How busy I am. Look how tired I am and how thin I am. Pointing to his own face, he is asking for credit here. Glancing at him, Yoon Chugzyo knew of course that his words were not serious. She sighed and said, have you not found the perfumer yet? No, this kid is quite capable of running. I didn't expect there to be no trace at all. He clapped his hands and felt quite emotional. You must know that this matter started with the layout. After Yoon Chukian's attention was diverted, they began to close the net, preparing to control the fake perfumer they had specially found. This person was found by Luo Yuanhang through various methods. After passing it through several hands, he was introduced to Yoon Chukyeon. He has just entered the society and has no experience. How can he know so much? He really thinks that the recommendation from his friends is reliable. How do you know that there are a few reliable friends now? In the end, the most reliable thing is interests. After many rounds of transfers, the person who introduced him had no idea who originally found the perfumer, so even if he could find the friend who introduced him to him, he would never know who the person behind it would be. It's just that the perfumer disappeared after the accident. The deposit for the rented apartment was not refunded and he disappeared. However, his things were packed cleanly. I don't know if he just ran away. If you just run away, then forget it. I'm afraid that if you don't make it, you will end up being used as a handle. No matter what, the person must be found. Even if he can't be caught, he must know the exact information and make sure he doesn't talk nonsense. I know, Lo Yun Hang nodded. He still knew the stakes. Looking back at the open office door, he took 2 steps forward, approached her by the table, bent down, and whispered, "Mr. Yoon, did your old man give you anything? It won't take long for you to change your tune." Even though no one dared to peek from the office door, they could still see from the window that the two of them were in a very intimate posture. Yoon Chuk-seo obviously realized it. She frowned and leaned back, "Stand over. Hey, I'm not just caring about you, my future," but he stood back obediently, still wearing the same playful smile. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 426. Chapter 426 confirmed that it was her. As long as you act calmly, your benefits will definitely be indispensable, Yoon Chuk-seo said coldly, glanced at him, and saw him leaning there playing with a pen in his hand, thinking of what happened just now. By the way, Yoon Chuk-seo Chien is missing, do you know about this? Lo Yun Hang raised his eyes, "Ah. I don't know. He's missing? How could he be missing? Wasn't he hidden by your old man? I just asked him to stay and not go out, but I heard that he disappeared. My dad suspected that it was me." She frowned. If it wasn't Lo Yun Hang, what would have happened to Yoon Chukyeon's disappearance? Doubt you? Why did you tie up that kid? He is now a key target of other police's attention. He has no value for us. But something happened now, and I was the first to be suspected. He grabbed a pen and signed the document. Go and send someone to look for him to see if his whereabouts can be found. If found, notify him immediately. What are you looking for? The police will look for him anyway. Lo Yun Hang disagreed. You can look for me if you want, Yoon Chuk-seo said impatiently. Go out, I still have a lot of things to do. Shrugging, Lo Yun Hang retreated from her office with a playful smile on her lips. At the police station, facing a stack of photos, Soo-yoon said nothing. She looked at them carefully for a while and then raised her eyelids. That's it? Are you colluding with Yoonchi's manager Yoon Chukyeon to bring down Yoonchi? The police asked as usual. Soo-yoon said calmly, what good will it do to me to destroy the Yoon family? Because of business competition, and you have a personal emotional dispute with Yoon's deputy project manager. After reading the information given, this is probably what it means. No, Soo-yoon answered resolutely, there was a relationship, but it ended long ago. Now we are just strangers. Then what's going on between you and Yoon Chukyeon? He pointed at the photo. You are a perfumer, and Yoon Chukyeon is in charge of Yoon's perfume project. Now Yoon's side is going to sue you, saying that the perfume contains additives. The contraband ingredients are actually from your own hands. What can you say? I have nothing to say, I haven't done it. There has been a question about whether your perfume contains prohibited ingredients before. Does this matter really have nothing to do with you now? What happened before has been clearly explained to the public. As for the Yoon family, I have no contact with the Yoon family. As far as I know, they also have their own specially hired perfumer. Why don't we invite that person out and ask for details? She said, lowering her eyes and looking at the photos on the table. Also, police officer. These photos can't prove anything at all. Yoon Chukyeon and I don't know each other at all, let alone have any intersection. Those photos were all meetings that happened head-on or at a distance. There wasn't even a photo of her and Yoon Chukyeon sitting face to face, so how could she possibly have any collusion with him? Really, the policeman took out another receipt. If you don't know him, why would he transfer money to your account? Money? Soo-yoon was stunned for a moment. Why didn't she know about this? Looking at the receipt again, it was taken from the bank. The time and amount were clearly printed on it, which was a full 10 million. Yoon Chukyeon paid her 10 million from his account. I don't know the money. She pushed away the receipt, understanding that someone was deliberately framed. It's just that she has a lot of bank cards, but not all of them are in use. This card has not been used for a long time. She is not sure how much money is in it, and she has not sent any SMS notifications. Hence, even if someone sends money in, she doesn't know. You didn't know about such a large amount of money. He pointed at the receipt, obviously feeling that she was lying. This may be a lot of money, but I really don't take it seriously. Soo-yoon smiled disdainfully and said, in the past few years, I have been working as a perfumer. Although I have not earned so much, the money is still there. A lot of money. With my current ability, it's not difficult to earn this. It's really not that difficult. Just use your lips and add something to the formula, and you can get it easily. Who wouldn't be tempted? As far as the current evidence is concerned, it is indeed against her, but there are also doubts everywhere. The police were conducting interviews entirely in a business-like manner, and there was also some pressure from Yoon's side. The public's eyes were also watching, and the matter had to be concluded. Police officer. As far as the current evidence is concerned, it cannot be proven that I have any relationship with Yoon Chukyeon. First, I don't know him and have not had any private meetings with him. Second, if I have to say that I have a relationship with him, where is the evidence of collusion? Not to mention the money. If someone deliberately framed me, it would not be difficult to transfer money to it. There's no point in catching thieves and stealing stolen goods, so why not call Yoon Chukyeon and I'll confront him face to face, she said calmly. Who may have framed her for this matter, but it was definitely not Yoon Chukyeon himself. Now he himself has fallen into it. After the matter is finalized, it will be very detrimental to him. No one would be so stupid. He would frame others and drag himself into the water. The only explanation is that this bureau includes both her and him. Just as the policeman was about to speak, a man came in from outside and said a few words in a hurry. He raised his eyes and looked at Soo-yoon. Soo-yoon didn't know why. Yoon Chukyeon is missing, he said. Soo-yoon. Does this matter have anything to do with you? His voice became much more serious, as if he had regarded her as a criminal suspect. Soo-yoon looked innocent. I just found out. Officer, I've been working on perfume in the studio recently and haven't been out much at all. You brought me here again. How can I have the time and ability to let Yoon Chukyeon is missing? Perhaps it's someone you hired. Ha, I can't continue the conversation. This means I know it's her, right? Someone else came in and said something. The policeman glanced at her, stood up, and pointed at the table. Think carefully, do you have anything else to explain? Soo-yoon turned her head and the police went out. She didn't have anything to explain. She didn't do it. Even when Yoon was working on this project, she didn't pay much attention to it. The matter itself had nothing to do with her. Not to mention that she didn't know this Yoon Chukian at all, even if Luo Yuanhang was in charge of the project. So what did it have to do with her? She just wants to do what she should do and what interests her. What other people do has nothing to do with her. Soo-yoon, someone is here to bail you out. Another policeman came in, looked at her and said. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 427. Chapter 427 Making a Will. After all, her case was not the kind with conclusive evidence. Although Yunchi put pressure on her, Huanya was not someone to be trifled with after all. Yao went through the formalities and quickly released her on bail. There was nothing to say along the way, but his face was very gloomy. He was angry. Soo-yoon could tell that he was angry, very angry. It would be okay if the anger came out, but if he didn't speak like this, a bigger storm was brewing. Gently holding one of his hands, she said, I'm fine. Yao glanced at her, but said nothing, just turned his hand over and held her hand. I'm really fine. Don't you think I'm fine? I was just called over to ask questions. They don't have any conclusive evidence. They are just speculations and vague words, she said softly. They are lying. It's a big game, but it's a pity that it wasn't done well. I should have arranged some contact with Yoon Chukian earlier, which could at least prove that I might really be colluding with him. She said half-jokingly that she was not that nervous about this matter. After all, she had never done it before, and even if she went to court, she would still have to present evidence. It's just that if these things are delayed, it will affect the progress of the theme perfume promised to Lisa. You're still smiling, he glanced at her helplessly, and her smile dissipated some of the anger in his heart. He was indeed very angry. These people were so courageous. They set their sights on his woman. Do they really think he was dead? Isn't it funny to think about such a clumsy situation? Feeling that his anger was no longer so strong, Soo-yoon leaned towards him, but Yoon Chukian disappeared. I wonder if it was their fault. That Yoon Chukian, isn't Yoon Zongchin's illegitimate son? I heard that he was loved very much. Could it be that his own son could be sacrificed? Soo-yoon's biggest impression of this person was that she met him by chance in the hospital that day. He went to find the model, but ended up looking at the wrong door. He found Arian's place, and it was just a face-to-face meeting. But it was that time that he was photographed, and that was among the photos provided by the police just now. In other words, there was someone secretly filming in the dark that day. It is unknown who that person was and who sent him. But it was very creepy to think about it. There were people staring at her in the dark, like rats in the gutter. Not only is he missing, but the perfumer is also missing, Yao said with a sneer. Huh? No wonder the police didn't say anything when I asked the perfumer. In other words, the most important witnesses were missing, so they took action on me. Why does it feel like this situation is coming for her? No one can stab you. He held her hand tighter, and a pair of dark eyes burst out with anger. Whoever dares to stab you, I will gut him. Soo-yoon. In the hospital. Looking at the reappearance of Yoon Chugseok, Mrs. Yoon was not surprised at all. She just sighed. Shweer, does it have to be like this? Auntie, why bother? Yoon Chugseok said with a smile. Your uncle's body may not be able to survive for a few more days. You can't even wait for these few days. It's not that I can't wait, it's that the company can't wait. There are many things in the company now, and many things are waiting to be decided. Without a legitimate title, it's difficult for me to do things. She smiled. Auntie, you and uncle in total, there should be 55% of the shares. It is useless for you to keep these things. Why not transfer them to me and I will help make good use of these shares? You not only want control of the company, but also the shares in our hands. Shweer, when did you become so greedy? Look at what you said, Aren't we a family? You can't be greedy or not. Then if my eldest cousin is here, it won't be my turn. Now that he is gone, what are you doing with those dead things? You might as well leave it to me, I can take care of you until you die. Anyway, today, she has nothing to fear anymore. No one will be a stumbling block for her to climb up. No one can stop her. She not only wanted the Yun family, but also the He family, and wanted to be someone that the entire Zhang city and the entire Hai city could only look up to. Mrs. Yun was so angry when she mentioned her son that she put a hand on her chest and couldn't breathe. She was already weak, and she had been taking care of Yun Bokin recently, and she was even more haggard. Now Yun Chuxia used Yun Chuao's affairs to stimulate her, and she really wanted her life. "Auntie, don't be so angry, it's not good for your health," she said, past Mrs. Yun, and walked toward the room with the document bag in her hand. Smilingly, he pushed open the door to the room and said, "Uncle, let me come and see." Before she finished speaking, a smile appeared on her face. She didn't expect that there were other people in the room. Director Li and Director Zheng are the two major shareholders in the company. They started their business with the old chairman. Now they are not too young. They usually don't ask too much about the company's affairs. Unexpectedly, these two old guys actually will be here. Originally, Yun Chuxia didn't take them seriously. After all, as long as she got the shares from her uncle, plus the private seal and safe key, the company was hers. It didn't matter whether these two old guys supported it or not. Unexpectedly, at this time and at this juncture, these two old guys would appear here. "Uncle Li, Uncle Zhang," she greeted with a smile. Director Li and Director Zheng just nodded slightly, with no expression on their faces. "Uncle, have you felt better these past 2 days? What did the doctor say?" She walked over calmly, bent down, and looked at Yun Boqian, looking very concerned. Glancing over her face indifferently, Yun Boqian turned his head and said nothing. She didn't feel embarrassed, and still smiled and said, "It seems that Uncle's energy is better than the past few days. The past few days, he was just groggy and fell asleep most of the time. I can still see people today, then it's about to get better." No one spoke except her, so she could continue. "By the way, why are Uncle Li and Uncle Zheng here today? I heard that the two uncles are also involved in trivial matters at home, and they are not very easy to walk away. Today is, who was invited?" "It's me standing at the door." Mrs. Yun looked at her and said, "Your uncle is not in good health. Some things need to be arranged in advance. In addition to Director Zheng and Director Li, I have also arranged for a lawyer to notarize the marriage." "Well, what else do you want to ask?" Yun Chuxia was startled, but she didn't expect her to do this, and immediately laughed again. "What can I ask you? But my uncle is still in good health, so what kind of will should he make? Besides, the eldest cousin has already—" Yun Chuxia, she was rarely called by her first and last name like this. Mrs. Yun's face was very stern. "Your uncle is very tired, you'd better go back first." End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 428. Chapter 428. Have you never seen a beautiful woman? After all, there are still two major shareholders, so she doesn't want to be too forceful, lest word get out about it and it won't sound good. Yun Chuxia never expected that her eldest aunt, who looked inconspicuous, would still have such a skill, or could it be said that this was simply the uncle's instruction? Looking at the lifeless person lying on the hospital bed, can he still have such a brain? "Second, miss, you should go back first. When the lawyer comes, we will notarize it," Director Zheng said. "You can't believe that we two old men can't trust you." On the other hand, Director Li also followed suit. "How is that possible? You two are both veterans of the company. I can't trust anyone, and I can't trust you. It's just that I feel that my uncle's physical condition has not been very good recently. I don't know if his mind is clear right now. I'm afraid whether my will is valid or not." Before she could finish her words, Director Zhang said, "Don't worry, we will ask the doctor to conduct a detailed examination to make sure that it was done while the patient was conscious and fully effective. Besides, the will was only made for precautions in case. It would be best if the chairman's body can recover." "Yes, I think so too," Yoon Chugzyo smiled reluctantly. She knew that at least she couldn't get anything good here today, so she had no choice but to leave. "Auntie, it's really a thank you for your trouble," she said meaningfully, and Mrs. Yoon smiled coldly, not even trying to show off to her. After leaving the hospital, Yoon Chugzyo became more and more angry as she thought about it. She originally thought that everything was already under control and there would be no problem at all, but she didn't expect that something went wrong at this critical moment. These two old guys had been ignoring things for so long, and they still, "What are you doing here in this muddy water?" Even if you want to bribe them now, it may not be that easy. Moreover, Yoonchi has attracted too much attention recently, and every move has attracted the attention of the media. She cannot and will not cause any problems at this time. She had put so much thought into it and laid out such a big plan. She thought everything was the best arrangement, but there were still some mistakes. Thinking about it, Yoon Chukyeon has not been found and has no whereabouts yet. I felt that this was too abnormal. How could the people under her, especially the secret passages, be ignorant? Could it be that this Yoon Chukyeon can't escape to heaven and earth, and his whereabouts can't be found at all? This uncontrollable variable outside always makes people uneasy. Sitting in the car and thinking for a while, she took out her mobile phone and made a call. "Is Yoon Chukyeon missing?" "Not yet." She inserted her fingers into her hair, and she became even more irritated. Is it so difficult to check someone's whereabouts for such a trivial matter? What do you do for food? Even if he leaves the province or goes abroad, no matter where he goes, where is my whereabouts? There is no talk of catching the person back. I just want to check his whereabouts. Is it that difficult? After much thought, she started the car and went straight to the hotel. Hee-jin is staying in a hotel here. He has no plans to stay for a long time, so he will not buy a house. Yoon Chugzyo knows where he lives and what room he lives in. When he went upstairs, he paused and passed by the front desk and said, "Send a bottle of red wine to room 1818 later." Then, he took the elevator upstairs. There was no one in the elevator, especially since it was so high on the floor. She quickly took out the lipstick from the small bag she brought with her, touched up her makeup in front of the smooth mirror, and pulled down her rolled up hair and spread it, pull part to the front. Looking in the mirror, she is charming and flirtatious. Even a wink can be very seductive. Just as the elevator arrived, she put away her lipstick and walked straight towards the room. After ringing the doorbell a few times, the door opened. Hee-jin stood inside, his hair still dripping with water, and he was wrapped in a large bathrobe. He looked like he had just taken a shower. The heat had not completely dissipated, and the man's tight lines and dark pupils made him look like a cheetah ready to attack. Yoon Chugzyo suddenly felt a little nervous. Although she is very good at planning, although she has various strategies in mind, and has made the most detailed layout and preparations, she has never really experienced this kind of thing, and she will still be a little nervous when faced with it. Hee-jin narrowed his eyes. He probably didn't expect that she would find her here, at this time. "Yes, it's me," she smiled, swallowed, reached out and pushed him into the house, followed him in, and closed the door. "Why, aren't you happy to see me?" She naturally sat down on the soft sofa, raised her head and looked at him, her two slender legs crossed together, revealing a graceful arc. "It's really exciting. You are disappointed. I thought you would be surprised." Hee-jin smiled, sat down opposite her, picked up a pack of cigarettes on the table, took one out, lit it, and held it in his mouth. You didn't come here specifically to seduce me, did you? With my status, do I need to do this? Yoon Chugseo's voice was very charming and soft. Besides, even if it is like this, isn't my beauty enough? Blowed out a smoke ring, Hee-jin bent down and approached her. Yoon Chugseo raised her head, trying to make the arc of her neck perfect, and stared at him with affectionate eyes. However, Hee-jin reached out and grabbed her chin, lifted it up, and looked at it carefully as if he was examining a product, and finally said, "You are very beautiful." She raised the corners of her lips, feeling very happy being praised. "But do you think I haven't seen any beautiful women?" He let go of his hand, with a look of lack of interest on his face. "Do you think the imperial capital is short of beautiful women?" The sudden letting go, coupled with these two sentences, was simply a big insult to Yoon Chugseo. She considers herself to be naturally beautiful, and her beauty is more than enough to enter the entertainment industry. She doesn't think there are many daughters from aristocratic families around her who can surpass her beauty, but in front of this man, it is not worth mentioning, even a little bit. Being despised. I know that there is certainly no shortage of beautiful women in the imperial capital. But Mr. He is sure that there are really people as beautiful and capable as me. She lay down on her side, revealing the uneven curves of her body. She took off her coat as soon as she entered the door. There was only a black dress inside, which was a wraparound style. The lines of her body were so clearly outlined that when she lay down, she could see the undulating curves. Such a scene is really sultry. She feels that few men can bear it, and few men will not get nosebleeds from it. Hee-jin stood there, looking down at her with deep eyes. Just when there was an ambiguous smell in the air and the temperature seemed to be slowly rising, the doorbell rang and room service came to deliver wine. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 429. Chapter 429. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. You also ordered wine. Hee-jin opened the door and took the red wine in. Hee-jin looked at her and said, "How can such a beautiful time not be accompanied by good wine?" Standing up, Yoon Chugseo took the red wine from his hand, went to get 2 more glasses, opened the wine and poured it. "For our strong alliance, cheers." Hee-jin held the wine glass and watched her clink the glasses, but Hee-jin did not drink. He just looked at her lightly and asked, "When did I agree to join forces with you? Don't make trouble. Didn't we all agree before? Think carefully about the benefits I can bring you, Mr. He." After a pause, she sipped her red wine and continued, "As far as I know, although Mr. He has a good background, but for a noble family like the He family, you are not the most favored one, right? And you are not happy with your family because of the fragrance issue. Do you really want to lose the support of the family and become an outcast? Son." Hee-jin looked at her, his eyes darkened. "To be honest, I have been an abandoned son in my family for a long time. I know what it feels like. But I am different from you. No matter how I climb up or how hard I work, no one will see me. Just because I am a girl, just because I am a woman, don't you think it's funny?" When he said this, Yoon Chugseo did not look at him, but looked at the cup in his hand. The red wine in the cup was so beautiful in color that it slid on the wall, but in the end it would still be drank into the stomach. "Master He, you are different. You have the opportunity and the ability. If you just give up what should belong to you, wouldn't you be very willing to give it to others? It should be yours, why should you give it to others?" While she was talking, she poured herself a drink, and unknowingly drank half of the bottle. The speech gradually began to be a bit illogical and confusing. Hee-jin barely drank, and was completely listening to her words. He only felt that Yoon Chug-seo seemed different today. Is she being stimulated? He had heard about the Yoon family to some extent, and later he sent someone to check on Yoon Chug-seo and found out that she was the only daughter of Yoon Jong-chang, the second eldest son of the Yoon family. However, Yoon Jong-chang had an illegitimate child outside and wanted to take all the money. The family property was handed over to the illegitimate children. Yoon Chug-seo is obviously not willing to give in, and wants to use his power and background to consolidate her own position. This is okay, since most marriages between wealthy families are for this purpose. It's just that he doesn't like such a scheming woman. Her scheming is too deep, and her palace is too deep. Spending a lifetime with such a woman will be very tiring. You have to be on guard at all times to see if she plots against you. She might be a good partner in business, but in life, it's better to keep things simple. Of course, Yoon Chug-seo didn't know what he was thinking. She simply listed all the conditions together, and after calculation, she felt that Hee-jin was the most suitable candidate for her. He came from a good family, with a strong background, and he was quite handsome. The only thing was that she had never thought about whether Hee-jin liked her or not. In her opinion, whether you like it or not is not that important. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. In the end, what can tie people together for a long time is not like it or not, but interests. Because of interests, two people can be tied together, and because of interests, they can also go their separate ways. Her parents have been able to stay together for so many years because of their interests. The reason why they did not divorce was not because of their interests. So, does it matter whether you like it or not? Young master, he put down the wine glass and stumbled into his arms. Don't think about it, you have no better choice except me. The best is in your arms. Putting a finger on his nose, Yoon Chug-seo smiled drunkenly. Hold her loosely with one hand to prevent her from falling, and lowered his head. Hee-jin looked at this face. It is true that she is beautiful, but he would not feel at ease with such a femme fatale at home. Seeing those bright red lips getting closer and closer, just when he was about to touch him, he suddenly turned his head and avoided them. Yoon Chug-seo was stunned for a moment. She would never have thought that Hee-jin would avoid this kiss. Is there really a man in this world who can remain calm in his pregnancy? You are drunk, go back, he said. Why? She asked after blinking. At this moment, he actually felt that she was a little cute and pitiful. Hee-jin sighed, picked up the cup, and then took a few sips of wine. You are not suitable for me. Why? Yoon Chug-seo raised her eyebrows and tilted her head. You don't also like Soo-yoon, do you? Sci-fi was the cinnabar mole in her heart. She had been really moved by him and really wanted to marry him. It's hard not to be attracted by a man like that, but she couldn't plan it at the beginning and was almost killed by him. From then on, she honestly put away her fantasies about him and began to look for other men in the circle. Finally, she found the one in front of her, but once again she was turned away. Yoon Chug-seo felt like her face was being slapped, and she gritted her teeth with hatred. How is she inferior to that woman? Why does every man she likes also like that woman? Actually, Hee-jin didn't answer, but he was also thinking about it. He is not sure whether he likes Soo-yoon or not. He admits that he pays a lot of attention to her and wants to conquer her, but does he like her? It doesn't seem to count. At least he didn't feel jealous when he saw her with Sci-fi. But Yoon Chug-seo, it is certain that he doesn't like her. Even if she leans softly in his arms, even if he has some male impulses, as long as he thinks about being with her for decades to come, he will have no thoughts. He didn't say anything, and Yoon Chug-seo naturally didn't understand this either. She just felt that his silence was a tacit admission that he liked Soo-yoon. After being mostly awake from the wine, she stood up from his arms with a much cooler expression. Then let me remind you that Soo-yoon is completely devoted to that Sci-fi. If Mr. He likes her, it will probably be in vain. Is the result important? Hee-jin raised his eyelids and looked at her, but he disagreed. Don't you think the process is the most exciting? Yoon Chug's-yo. It seems that he is determined to get Soo-yoon, so wouldn't he have wasted all his efforts? The most important thing is that if he really likes Soo-yoon, he will not really help her deal with Soo-yoon. Yoon, this game of mine will eventually be ruined. Since Mr. He made it so clear, I'm not a stalker. She combed her hair casually, picked up her coat and put it on, tying her belt and said, but I kindly remind you, if Mr. He wants to, if you want her to be submissive and obedient, now is the best time. Originally, your industry association was investigating her illegal practice, and now Yoon is suing her for adding contraband. If she doesn't want to go to jail, she must seek help. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 430. Chapter 430. Ask yourself. Miss Yoon, are you teaching me how to do things? Hee-jin turned his head and glanced at her, his tone was unhappy. No, just a reminder. After saying that, she smiled, opened the door and walked out of the room. After leaving Hee-jin's place, Yoon Chug's-yo's heart became more and more unsettled. She originally thought that everything was under her control, but in just 2 days, she seemed to feel out of control. This feeling is like weaving a huge web, thinking that I am sitting firmly in it and watching others join in, but later I slowly discover that I am also in other people's web, but I am just their prey. No, that's not right. It shouldn't be like this, something must have gone wrong. Soo-yoon has indeed had Mercury retrograde these days. The Yoon family is going to sue him for colluding with insiders to tamper with the perfume. The Perfumery Industry Association seizes the opportunity at this time to get involved. It was found that she was practicing illegally. With attacks from both sides, even some fans who used to support her are now beginning to doubt her, and some have switched sides, feeling that she is just trying to gain fame and reputation. In the past, those were just personas and created images. The internet is divided into 2 sides. One side believes in her. They feel that she can save the day every time and have a reversal every time. They believe in her personality and her ability to make fragrances. On the other hand, some people are on the opposite side. They feel that as the largest industry association in the country, why should others attack you instead of others? As for the practice qualification certificate, she has never come out to explain whether it is true. I just don't have the qualifications. There is also a problem with Yoon's first perfume, which contains contraband. At a press conference not long ago, she personally said that some other ingredients can be added to it. Everyone has heard this, so why can't it be she? The 2 sides were very torn, and Soo-yoon never responded. She seemed very busy these 2 days, running between the studio and outside, and making many more phone calls. I don't know what she was busy with. On this day, an unexpected guest came to the studio. It was rare for Hee-jin to see the door open. He could walk in directly without knocking. The whole yard was full of plants, and the air was filled with various fragrances, including the fragrance of flowers, herbs, and even medicine. They mixed together, which was a bit strange. As a perfumer, even if you are used to the strange smell of such mixtures, each mixture is still different after all, so you will still feel a little uncomfortable when you smell it. Under the base of the wall, a figure was busy, cutting a piece of grass and putting it in a basket on the side, and then stretched it out to another one. She was so focused that she didn't notice anyone coming in until Hee-jin coughed. The movements of her hands paused, and Soo-yoon turned her head. The sunlight was too dazzling, so she narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at him. Ahem, you are really leisurely and relaxed, Hee-jin said as he walked under the flower gallery to block the sun. Mr. He, are you here specifically to see my jokes? Soo-yoon said without raising her head as she continued to work on her work with her head lowered. Of course she is aware of the rumors on the internet, but the matter is not final yet, and no matter what she says now, it will cause controversy, so it is better to be quiet and do what needs to be done. Do you also know that you are a joke? He glanced at the table next to him, where a complete set of purple sand tea sets was placed. He was still thinking about enjoying the tea. It seemed that he was not pretending to be calm. Whether it's a joke or not, it's hard to tell who is the joke until the end. She picked up the other weeds, put all the tools into the basket, then stood up and walked towards the house. Seeing her disappear from his sight, Jin quickly stood up and followed her. The room was much cooler than outside. Su-yoon put down the basket and took her time to sort out her flowers and plants, cleaning, combing, sorting, in an orderly manner. Looking at her movements, Jin actually did these things himself. As a perfumer, these are all basic. It may seem trivial, but you have to do it yourself and experience the difference in material of each thing, and then you can better utilize and refine it. After he joined the association in recent years, most of this was done by the assistants below. He only did the fragrance mixing step, which he hadn't done for a long time. Now the Yoon family is accusing you of tampering with their perfume, and you don't have the qualifications to practice. If you add these two charges together, you will have to stay in jail. Standing not far behind her, he continued, are you really not worried at all? Or are you too confident in Huanya and Mr. C's abilities, thinking that he will definitely be able to protect you? I'm not sure whether he can protect me, but he will try his best. I know this. After washing her hands, Su-yoon turned to look at him. As for going to jail, I don't have to worry about it, Mr. He. You have a part in this, and I will definitely remember it. Looking at her clear eyes, Jin actually felt a little guilty. As an insider, he knew very well what was going on in this whole scene, but even though he manipulated the line that could make her rise and fall, she didn't ask for help, not even the slightest bit of panic. She was too calm and composed. Actually, why are you so stubborn? Since you have entered this industry, shouldn't you abide by the rules of this industry? Getting a professional qualification certificate and joining the association should be what every perfumer in the country wants. Now the opportunity is right in front of you. As long as you are willing to bow your head and admit your mistake, and are willing to retake the certificate, I guarantee that you will pass the exam no matter what, and then join the association naturally. From now on, you and I will work together to bring China's fragrance industry to a new level. Okay. He felt that this woman was simply a deadbeat. What an olive branch he had thrown out. It was clearly a bright and prosperous road. As long as she nodded, the road ahead would be smooth, but she insisted on going to the bad place. With you, a sarcastic smile appeared on the corner of her lips. Su-yoon took 2 steps forward and looked up at him. What do you mean by a new level? It means setting thresholds, drawing out rules, and all ideas. Perfumers who want to join this industry must abide by the rules set by you or your team. If you don't listen to you, you are not worthy of being a perfumer and you can't join this industry. Is this what you call being promoted? A new level? Mr. He, ask yourself, do you want to be a perfumer or a perfumer? Jin was shocked. This question hit his heart and made him speechless for a moment. Ask yourself, ask yourself. So, you refuse to admit your mistake? Jin took a deep breath and asked. I'm not wrong, why should I admit my mistake? She still looked calm. I'm not afraid of slanted shadows. I'll wait. You guys, wait too. End of this chapter.